And that's one of the biggest issues with social media today. It's not that everyone has an opinion, it's that people speak from a place of ignorance. They don't know what they're talking about, yet they can't stop talking.
Welcome to Center Ground, your home for unfiltered discussion, where we tackle today's most talked about topics, break down current events, and give our take on the internet's latest foolishness. Tune in and let's find some common ground. Let's get this party started.
Welcome back to the Center Ground podcast. I am your host, Bootsy. I think today we're going to have an interesting one. I looked at the title and I just know we're dealing with stupidity today. I just know it's going to be one of those days. It says, good men stay even if they find out the kid isn't theirs. Just by a title alone, I know these are the statements of women who probably made poor decisions, or they know of a woman who made poor decision. I just think it's going to be women giving their opinions on what men should be doing when they themselves never go through what men go through, right? So let's get this started and see how dumb it's going to be, because we know it's going to be pretty dumb.
It really be your own people, dude. My 16-year-old just found out that his dad isn't his real dad anymore because of my bitter-ass sister. She claims it's for his own good, but in what way is that for his own good? When I found out I was pregnant.
Look at that. Start off early. Knowing who's his actual father is good for the child. If the child gets sick, knowing the bloodline of the child, you can prevent a lot of diseases, get them treatment early. You could foresee what might happen to them, because a lot of us get the sicknesses of our ancestors. And God forbid they get hurt and need a blood transfusion or something like that. Chances are they might have the same blood or need a donor or things like that. So, all right, it's already, look at her face, but it's already starting stupid.
With my son, I made the logical choice to pick the father that made the most money. His real dad was working at McDonald's for like $8.25 an hour. I don't want that as a man.
So she didn't want that as a man, but she slept with that man and slept with that man unprotected and had a baby with that man. But she don't want that for the man that's going to raise her son. Crazy. But you see how she said she chose the man that made more money. Now, don't get me wrong. People like this might just be reading the stories of somebody else, so you just never know. But we're going to pretend for a second that it is her. A lot of women do this. They pick and choose who they feel is the best person, not for the child, but for them. So they typically pick whoever has the most money because they can extract that money from those men. It doesn't matter who the birth parent is. It doesn't matter about the experiences of the child. It's all about them and their gain. So as much as we love to think that women and children get unconditional love, I'm starting to think that not even children get unconditional love. They get loved under the condition that they are tied to specific people, and their lives benefit that same person.
Just one of my hoes, and that was that. And I got pregnant, and so I picked the richer dad. And although the richer dad didn't take care of him and hasn't been around, he does pay child support, and he pays a lot, and it pays for a majority of my rent. Well,
Bingo. See, that's exactly what I was talking about. It's not about the child. It's about them. This is also why I keep saying child support should be audited. Your child support should not be paying the rent for a mother who can't get their life together. That's not how child support is supposed to work. And people say, well, it's supposed to support the child. The mother can't even support the child. So why does the mother have custody of that child? I know it's a controversial take, but you can't keep claiming independence and claiming that you're the better parent and you're the capable parent when you need someone else's money to do such a simple job. I don't understand how you, as a grown woman, can't pay your own rent, but you're sitting in what looks like a new car. You see the problem, and we create problems in this country, and then we wonder why they exist, and then we just complain about them.
my sister never liked that, and I finally let her have my son thinking I could trust the bitch. And she tells my son and confides in him that his dad isn't his real dad, and now he went and found his real dad behind my back with my sister, and they are all trying to fight and get my son taken away from me.
Wait, what? Yo, the more you listen, the crazier some people sound. She says she gave her sister the son, and I'm hoping she means for a weekend and not for life, because that's wild, because she's now turning around and saying, I gave my sister my son, but now they're trying to take him away from me. Like, how they gonna take him away when you gave him away? Here, let me give you some money and then say you stole it, because that makes sense.
son doesn't want to live in my house. We haven't talked in 3 days. I think it's the most miserable thing a person can ever do is ruin some shit like that. I picked the right choice. I have now who's going to pay my bills now? Because now they also told that the guy that's been on child support all these years and he's trying to come after me and sue me for all the money he's been paying. I think it's
Good, and I hope he get every damn penny. But can we please have a conversation as to why this isn't considered a mental illness? Because if she's actually talking about herself and her life, she has no remorse and no issue with what she did. This is overt fraud. First of all, you get on the internet admitting that you just defrauded someone and the government into getting child support so that you can pay your rent. How how are you not in jail right now? Like, this is madness, and some people get away with this time after time after time again.
absolutely ridiculous. Like, I didn't do anything wrong here.
When they did a data
She says she ain't do nothing wrong. You see what I'm saying? Like, these people don't see anything they do as wrong. They think that they are infallible, meaning they can't do no wrong and no one should question them, which is why they call you sassy whenever you question them, because they feel like men should not have the ability to question them. If we're being completely honest, what they are is childish, because even if a woman criticizes them, they say that woman's a pick me. So they just don't like criticism. They think they are beyond reproach. No one can criticize them.
collection of all of the paternity test centers in America, they found that 32% of fathers who got a paternity test were indeed not the father of their children. Now, you got to take this with a grain of salt because these were the men who already had suspicions, but y'all not hearing me. This problem is so bad in Jamaica, it's about 70%. When the men's rights activists in Jamaica wanted to make it so that paternity tests were mandatory at birth, they said that they wouldn't allow it because it would cause too much femicide, meaning too many men would find out that their children are not actually their children and they would end up harming the women. They thought it was so bad that they shouldn't even make it a thing. In France,
Think about how crazy that is. Like, they know that these women are doing wrong and they don't say anything. And this is my problem holistically with how the country, the world is currently being ran. We know certain problems stem from certain behavior, but based on who's doing it, we pretend like it's not a thing. And what's crazy is that mentality has never worked in history. It just breeds more problems. It's almost like we live in a time where the governments and the people who are in charge want more problems. So you have to start asking yourself, why do these people want us constantly at each other's throats? What exactly are they doing that they want us distracted from what real life actually is? Because it makes no sense that you would know that, like, people are doing wrong, and because you're worried about the people who are doing wrong getting hurt by the people they've wronged, you let them continue to do wrong. Like let's just flip that for a second. Imagine imagine there's a criminal and cops witness someone breaking into someone's house, and they don't stop the criminal because they said, hey, if we catch the criminal in our custody, maybe the person they stole from might try to whoop them. Gonna beat that A. Like, think about how crazy that sounds. That's really what they're doing with women, for the simple fact that they're women.
this problem is so bad that you're not even allowed to get a paternity test unless it's ordered by a judge. They said, and I quote, that it would destroy and destabilize communities if they had mandatory paternity tests at birth. We literally have access to the alien technology that allows us to make sure that every father is actually providing for children that is biologically theirs, and our states and governments are going, nah, because that would mean women would have to be accountable for the decisions that they make. And if you have this conversation with some women, they will really act offended.
How can a man walk away from a child?
Before this lady starts, PMP makes a great point, and it's like, these things holistically harm men, and they don't have a problem with it. And I have a theory that it's because, one, they harbor a great deal of hatred towards men, which is why they tend to believe that men hate them. But I also think it's just because it doesn't affect them and they don't care. And it's like, you see that a lot in modern society. When people go through things and it doesn't affect them personally, they just don't care. But now this lady, right? Should a man walk away when DNA test shows he's not the father? So this, I'm guessing she's the highlight of the video. Fellas, young men, boys, anything in between, do not listen to these women when they tell you how you should feel about something that would hurt, harm, or affect you, but has no chance of affecting them. The same way they don't want to hear your opinion when it comes to pregnancy, you should not listen to their opinion when it comes to your finances and having to take care of another man's child. That's not something you should listen to. I'm just going to start off by saying that you should make the decision yourself. And if anything, if you choose to do so, then you choose to do so, but you'll have to face the consequences of making that choice. Don't listen to these women because they benefit from it. So they're going to tell you to do it. Duh. That's my whole point of this video, but I'm going to let this rock.
That he has been raising for 3, 5, 10, 15 years simply because the DNA test shows that he's not the biological father.
That's simple. Like, why? And see, this is what I was talking about, because they are so confused because it's not something that they will go through. It's like when rich people are confused. Wasn't it like Paris Hilton or one of these? Oh, maybe it was like Gwyneth Paltrow, one of these extremely wealthy white women who was born rich. It was like, I don't understand why they don't just go buy a Mercedes. Like, but like, Nick, like, yo, how are poor people going to just go buy? I mean, now you could just lease it and finance it and with credit that you don't have, and kill yourself financially. But back then, it's like, how exactly do you expect people to just go buy a new car? It reminds me when I was at work, and some of the people I work with are so privileged. I was like, listen, I'm trying to do things with my family. I'm trying to, make a way. And my manager at the time was like, yo, you should just come move next to me. The house is available. Bruh, when I checked out the house, it was worth like almost $1 million. And this man gonna tell me I should just go move. I said, listen, brother, if you're willing to put down that down payment, then I'll move. But until then, come on now.
Easy. Come on now.
Word, that's how you deal with that level of foolishness. Like, yo, if you was with someone, a woman, and then you realize that the kid is not yours, man, just get up and go. That would be my advice. Without knowing any other information, that's my default. Just get the hell out of there.
When I first heard the beginning of this, I thought this has to be rage bait. Well, I want to see where it goes, though. You go to the store for milk, but this time it's justified.
Hear me out here. I'm not being insensitive. I know that his world has just been turned upside down.
She started off
He's
insensitive.
betrayed. He's devastated.
Betrayed. I feel betrayed when my wife watches a TV series that we started together. She started watching episodes without me. That's what makes me feel betrayed. This ain't betrayal. This is damn near treason. This don't make you feel betrayed.
This ain't just treason. It's high treason. It's treason to the worst order. Like, you can't return back from that level of treason. Well, some people do, but they be miserable. That's the part we don't see.
Kind of stuff make you feel murderous. You go into work every day exchanging your time, which is literally your life force. Your time is your life force, and you're exchanging that for money to provide for a family you thought was yours, and you find out that it isn't, and she knew the whole time? Yeah, that's the kind of stuff to make you lose all hope in humanity. That's the kind.
Yeah, and I think sometimes that's what happens when we be hearing that some people flipped out on the news and we never know why, because they offed everybody and then off themselves. It's like, I sometimes believe it's things like this, where they found out that the kids that they loved and believed in and worked for and killed themselves for were not theirs. They made all those sacrifices, and they just lose it. And it's like, as a society, we should be working towards making sure these type of things don't happen to protect women. But instead, we let them do foolishness, and then we try to protect them from their own bad behavior, which is never going to work out long term. But whatever, right?
Kind of stuff to start making you say, how can you do this to us? If a grown man is crying and he's saying, how can you do this to us? It's time to leave.
I empathize. I sympathize with his predicament. However, how is one able to?
And see, there's always a qualifier. Like, I empathize. However, I empathize. But it's like, you don't empathize. You want them to do what you feel they should be doing. And then you're saying, just because you say you empathize. And I think as a society, we have to relook how we look at emotional IQ, because women love touting things like emotional IQ. But when you listen to them speak, you realize that they have little to none. And that IQ only pertains to what benefits or what helps them. It's never what hurts someone else. If what benefits them hurts someone else, they'll still want you to do it. And I guarantee you that's where she's going.
To walk away from a child that one has bonded with, loved, nurtured, poured blood and sweat into, simply because the DNA test shows that you're not the biological father. I understand.
that means that it ain't his. Like you kill yourself for what's yours. You would go through the earth, the moon, the stars, and everything else in the galaxy to fight for those children, to make sure that your children have a better future, that your children have a good life, that your children are protected. And as insensitive as it may sound, you're not going to do that for every child around simply because you've grown emotionally attached to them. That's not how this works. That's not how it should work. You do that for you and yours. There's a bit of selfishness in there, and that's because your task, your job, your charge with making sure that your family is good, not everybody else's. I love my family. I love my extended family. I am not responsible for my family members' children. And as crazy as that may sound, I will try my best to help those children despite some of the things that their parents may or may not do, can't do, don't want to do. But at the end of the day, those children are not my responsibility. Those children are their parents' responsibility. And one thing I've learned is, as much as it sucks, the fact that we constantly jump in to help terrible parents raise their children, it just results in them being more terrible to those children. They never fully learn how to be parents to those children. Nothing forces them, so they never learn. And then the kid suffers more and more and more. And then what's crazy is people never think about this fact. What happens when you can't do it anymore or don't want to do it anymore? Then that child suffers even more because now you're pulling the rug from under them. It's a holistically bad situation, which is why the old folks used to warn us about being so promiscuous and living loose. But we wanted to be liberated.
Understand getting rid of the wife or the girlfriend. The word I actually want to use starts with a W and rhymes with shore.
Oh, you talking about the word whore. All right, words got meaning. And the reason why that word hurts is because it got a sting on a biblical level. That's a biblical word, whore. Yeah, we got to start saying that word again. If a woman is having a kid by another man and she knows potentially that this man is not the father of that kid and she makes this man take care of a kid, that is by definition. You got to start using the word whore. And let's just be honest here. If you had a baby by another man, you didn't just cheat once. You was a habitual cheater. You was in it for the love of the game. You was in it.
It was a habitual line stepper.
Habitually, he's a habitual line stepper. First
For the sport. You like to cheat because even when married couples want to have a baby, you have to work on having a baby. You have to figure out a schedule, sleep with each other enough to have a baby. That's what you got to do in a married couple when you want to have a kid, right? So if you have a kid, it wasn't just no one-time thing. You was a habitual violator. If there's any appropriate time to use that word, it's in that context.
Get rid of the W.
That's true.
But the children or the child, innocent child, it is
There she goes with that but again. See, and this is the stark contrast of how men and women think, right? Men understand that the children will suffer, but those aren't his kids. And as much as you love them kids, they are not yours. And for them to be happy, you have to suffer. Now, don't get me wrong. Men are willing to suffer for their family. That's not their family. And that's why it hurts them on a deep emotional level to a point that women almost holistically will never fully understand. Because when you have a child, that child changes you. It changes your mentality. So it changes you mentally, and it also changes you physically, because you will die for that child, even if it means killing yourself at a job that you hate. Now imagine you doing all that and you find out the kid's not even yours. That is a level of deception I would not wish on my enemy.
flummoxing to me. Now, I'm not a man, and I do not know how this impacts men.
Yeah.
But why can't people say that and then shut up? You get what I'm saying? Why can't you say, I don't understand what women go through when they're pregnant, so let me shut the hell up? And I never understood this mentality where people gotta always talk. Like, I don't speak on pregnancy. If a woman tells me her body hurts when she's pregnant, I shut up and I listen to her. Why? I have no experience in being pregnant. This common sense, this logic. Why is it that as a woman, she doesn't understand what men would go through if they went through that? And yet she still feels the need to give her opinion unsolicited when no one asked her for it and no one cares about it. And they do it because it's a form of manipulation. I feel that what I have to say is so important, even though I don't fully understand it, that I need to say it. And that's one of the biggest issues with social media today. It's not that everyone has an opinion. It's that people speak from a place of ignorance. They don't know what they're talking about, yet they can't stop talking.
also know that there's deep shame. But were I in that predicament, of course I would be devastated. I'd be hurt and betrayed. But then I'd let the children know, or the child know.
And see, you probably heard me say this in countless videos. This is a big mistake that many women, particularly black women, from my knowledge, have a poor habit of making. Why do you feel the need? And I think in this situation, I'll give her some grace because I think she said the kid is 16 years old. But why do you feel the need to put the child in adult business? And I think that's destroying the mentality of a lot of our children. They're forced to grow up too damn fast. And we put them in poor situations by our poor decision making, and then we turn around and then we destroy their brain by feeding them information they aren't prepared for. So, like, why do you feel the need to tell the child? It's easier to just get up and leave. And that's why most men would just get up and leave. Either that or they would Chris Benoit the whole family. And it's like nobody wants that.
You may not be my biological child, but you're still my child. My child.
Man, she talking trash because she a woman and she don't know what it's like to be a man to work hard.
Exactly. Like, of course, yeah, it's still my child. No, it's not. No, it's not. And we can play these mind games all we want. We could play semantics and, play word games and all this other nonsense. But that's not your child. If you adopt a kid, that is not your biological kid. You can say I'm that child's parent, but that's not your child, right? And I hate when people do that. They make up things so that they feel good, and then they try to push it to the world. And although I understand if I adopted a child, I would see that child as my own. However, I would always know and understand that biologically, it's not my kid. I hope people can understand that.
Provide for a family and find out that family's not.
And it doesn't make you wrong for that either.
Child, but you're still my child. My child.
Man, she talking trash because she a woman and she don't know what it's like to be a man to work hard to provide for a family and find out that family's not even yours and the woman knew. If you a woman, you ain't never got to worry about the idea of raising a kid, unwillingly raising a kid that isn't yours because obviously you have the kid. So you are.
Just to interrupt PMP, there's one situation that I am aware of where this has happened, where babies were switched at birth or a child was kidnapped, right? And that's the only situation that women will understand what men go through, where a child is swapped out and you still have love for that child, but it's not really your child, even though you raised them and all this other stuff. So that has happened. Just throwing that out there. But yeah, the chances of this situation that men go in through is high. Right. And it's becoming higher and higher because women are being more promiscuous. They're being more loose. And then what's crazy is you got countries that are like France who don't want men to get paternity tests because they know how bad it actually is. The governments know how bad it actually is. Only on social media are women these perfect creatures that can't do no wrong. Right. But, stop listening to these chicks, man. Y'all gonna lose y'all mind listening to these women thinking that they right. I get it. We love mama. We love listening to mama, but mama be wrong. Don't listen to mama. Go find you a male mentor, someone who knows what they're talking about, and sit under that man and listen to him. Y'all listening to these women who benefit from this crap. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if this woman was cheating on her husband, which is why she's saying some nonsense like this. You ever see politicians that promote, I don't even want to say promote, that try to defend perverts? I almost said it, but that defend perverts. Y'all should be watching, like judges, lawyers, politicians who defend perverts. Y'all should be watching those men closely to see what they into. And this is why I think women like her who defend other women for their poor choices, even though she called her that name, right? Sometimes y'all should need to start looking into these people who agree with this bad behavior, because something tells me that they partake in debauchery themselves.
Automatically know it's yours. It's not even in your biology to understand what a man is going to be feeling in that moment. And to be honest, a lot of times this stuff is calculated, and it's really just the selfishness of the woman. She knows the man that she probably had the kid with ain't stable, so she pins the kid
like
on the
the
man
first
who
guy,
is stable, and she leeches off of him.
First
and
lady.
Everybody affected is in the negative except for the woman. Not only are you denying the dad the liberty of knowing that the kid is his or not, but you're also denying the kid the liberty of knowing who his biological father is. And last but not least, you're denying the biological dad the privilege of knowing that he has a kid in this world. I know a person personally. Like, I'm not gonna go too far into it. I don't want to get too obvious, but I know a person who was with another guy, and they got into it, and she was pregnant at the time. But instead of telling the guy that she was pregnant, she ended up leaving the state, getting another boyfriend. They were sleeping together. She convinced this guy that this was his biological kid, knowing that it was the other guy's biological kid. She ended up having the kid, giving the kid this man's last name. And after they got into an argument about 2 years into the relationship, she left that town all the way across the country, came back to where she used to be, and told the man that this is your biological kid. He's been on the planet for 2 years, essentially. And then after this guy got the paternity test to find out if it actually was his, I mean, now you got to pick up all the pieces, right? So that woman was able to cause all that chaos, and there's no accountability, there's no punishment for all the things that she was doing, and it was just out of pure selfishness. And to make it worse, it was done maliciously and purposefully.
I love you. You are my child in my heart. I've bonded with you. I've raised you. So nothing changes. Now, I know a lot of men worry about, oh, then I have to continue paying I have to pay child support.
Man, listen, I don't know how old y'all, but when I was young, I raised the Tamagotchi. And that child was my child. That was my Tamagotchi. But it wasn't my biological child at the end of the day. I know it's a messed up analogy, but let's be real. Some of y'all are raising pets, and you see how a lot of women be like, oh, this is my baby. That's not your baby, right? You see grandparents doing the same thing. Oh, that's my baby. It's not your baby. It's not. It's not. Like, you can say these things, but it's not true.
Now that we're not together, so what? I'd pay the child support.
So what?
You know what?
This lady, hold on. Let me rewind that real quick. I want y'all to hear the foolishness, because I come on now.
To make it worse, it was done maliciously and purposefully.
I love you. You're my child in my heart. I've bonded with you. I've raised you. So nothing changes. Now, I know a lot of men worry about, oh, then I have to continue paying I have to pay child support now that we're not together. So what? I'd pay the child support.
So, and I need y'all to hear this, because oftentimes women tend to lower men to a status of just utility. And it's a big problem, particularly in the Black community, where she said, oh, I know men are worried about the child support. Let me explain something. If you're with a woman and you're killing yourself at work to make a better world for your woman and your child, the last thing you're thinking about, if you find out that she cheated and that child is not yours, is child support. That's the last thing you're thinking about. But you see how it's the utmost importance to her, because they worry about the money, the finance, how they're going to survive. Right. And then she had the audacity, the unmitigated gall to say something as stupid and foolish as, I would just pay the child support. Let me put this lady on child support for a kid that's not hers, and I guarantee you she will be crying and complaining to the internet faster than you could say TikTok.
Because you know what? Even though everything has changed, nothing should have changed.
Yeah, if a woman cheats on me and has a baby with another man, and that's the same type of woman, knowing that that's not my kid, is going to be willing to put me on child support if we so do break up because I decided to stay, that is absolute insanity. I don't think she knows anything.
Forget insanity. Think about how evil that is. It's like, you know, you're deceiving the person and you're still going to put them on child support. You putting everybody at risk, including the government, and it benefits you, so you don't care.
About child. Do you know if you have stocks, if you have investments that appreciates, your child support can go up because your living or your income technically goes up? If those investments decrease, if the stock market crash, you invest in XRP and the stock market crash or crypto crash, they don't lower your child support. But if your stock goes up or your crypto goes up or your assets go up, they can raise your child support. So you mean to tell
if assets go up, I kind of understand that, but stock, it should not be that way, because they don't even tax that until you pull it out. So I don't know if that's 100% true, but that's a doozy. Like, if that's true, that's crazy, because you could have Bitcoin and it could be worth 140K one day, and it could go right back down to, 110 or 109 or 104. It's happened, right? So it's like, how does that work? But I don't know. I would have to research that more.
I mean, it don't matter that you decided to stay in this situation, and this woman who put you in this situation that you decided to stay in the first place is now going to put you on child support because y'all broke up. That type of woman don't deserve nothing. I'm sorry. I would completely cut myself off from that situation. As a man, it's obviously our duty to lead, but it's also our duty to have some level of self-preservation. You have to know the difference between being useful and being used. And if a woman had a baby by another man and she didn't tell you about it, you're not being useful, brother. You're just being used.
It's still the child that I raised, bonded with, and loved. And in an attempt not to pay child support, one ends up cutting off one's nose to spite one's face, because you got to look at the big picture. The relationship.
That ain't his nose or his face. That's somebody else's nose and face. This seems like she seems to be missing the point, right? Like, that's not his seed. And that's the part that they don't understand. It is not his responsibility to take care of a child that he was deceived with. Like, that woman deceived him using that child. It is not his responsibility now to take care of that child just because he grew emotionally attached to it, right? That's foolish.
with that child.
Look at the big picture.
The continued relationship and the ability to go ahead and raise and nurture that child because you already have that bonded relationship. But once again, because I'm not a man, I do not understand.
Yeah, I can get a dog. There's no way.
How anybody can walk away from a child. Story time. My husband had a boss about 20 years ago. This gentleman's son had some medical issues. And to make a long story short, he found out that his 19-year-old son was not his biological child. Needless to say, he was devastated. But you know what? He had raised this child for 19 years, was paying for college. This was his son, and he was not going to let him go. And my heart broke for him, but I was so proud of this man.
Don't nobody care if you was proud. Like, first of all, she outside telling these stories, so I don't know if she's sneaking and geeking or what. But it don't matter how proud you are of this man. That man was deceived. He was deceived. If he decided to walk away, it would have been nothing wrong with that. Nothing. If he decided that everybody involved got to go out on the curb, he's not wrong for that. I mean, it might look wrong in our eyes, but you're not the one being deceived. So who cares what you have to say? And I think that's the perspective that we have to start looking at, where you got an opinion about something that will never happen to you. Shut up. Like, I get having an opinion, but good Lord. And then what happens is they try to convince the world that their view is right and the world should adopt their view. And I think there's nothing wrong with having an opinion, but when you start doing that step, when you start promoting your ideas to the masses because that's how you feel, that's where you go wrong.
Because he did not walk away from his child. And I think at times some men might think walking away from the child is a way to punish the woman for her betrayal.
And this is why you can never listen to a woman tell you what they believe that a virtue is.
Nope, you can't, because they tend to think in a selfish manner. They tend to think what benefits them and their gender, which is why men should not listen to them. But again, it's not about punishing the woman. And you got to see the train of thought that this lady has. Everything that she's saying always ties back to benefiting the woman. Everything. It takes the man's feelings. She makes claims that she's taking it into account, and then she disregards it almost immediately. Who cares about punishing this woman? She was deceitful. She knew the kid was not yours, or potentially knew the kid was not yours, and sat quiet for 18, 19 years. That is, it's evil. Like, let's call it for what it is. We'd say it's bad behavior. It's selfish. That's evil, maniacal, devious behavior. Why it's not considered fraud is beyond me. Why isn't it automatic jail time? Beyond me. But it's evil.
Man is, because they're always going to tell you from the context of how you can be used by a woman in some way. Anytime a woman is telling you what a real man is, she's going to describe a man that's going to be useful to her. She's going to describe a jive turkey, a sucker. And women already know.
Yeah, and that's what I've been saying in my past videos. Whenever they tell you what a real man is, that real man is always someone they can use for their benefit. It's never someone that's going to discipline them. It's never someone that's going to hold them accountable. It's never someone that's going to lead them to prosperity. But it is going to be that guy that's going to stand there and accept everything that you say and do to make you happy. Remember that guy, that pastor that Megan Good was married to. Remember he crying. He's still crying to this day about this woman because he's a fool. But you remember when he was on stage with that lady, and some church lady, older lady, said, hey, as the pastor's wife, shouldn't you dress more modestly? And his clown self defied his Lord, his religion, and his God, and said, my wife's going to dress however she wants. Look who's not his wife anymore. This is why we tell young men, put your feelings aside and think logically sometimes. Yes, you have to leverage feelings. Yes, you should take these things into account. But when you lower your standard, when you defy and deny yourself for the sake of a woman who isn't virtuous, who isn't all about you, who isn't trustworthy, you're only going to hurt yourself. So when men like me say don't do it, this is why we say it. It may not sound good to hear. It might hurt some women's feelings. But this is why we tell you to do it, because we're more concerned about you, your mentality, and your mental state of mind at the end of the day, while they are more concerned with how much the woman is going to feel good, regardless of how bad she behaved.
That real men don't care about what women think real men are. So they know that it's a manipulation tool or a manipulation tactic in order to convince weak men to do the things they want them to do.
But at the end of the day,
And I agree with PMP on that point as well. I have this one friend who I pray to God, like we're not as close as we used to, but I know he used to struggle with women. He struggled with women. He couldn't even talk to women without stuttering constantly. Right. And I think to this day, this man is still not married, still might be struggling with getting a woman. And those are the kind of guys that I think these type of women are appealing to. The guys who become desperate, who will accept anything because they know time is running out, right? Those guys who most women don't want, but will settle for if he has a good job and good credit when he's 40 years old. I think that's who they are appealing to. So yeah, I agree with what PMP said.
The person you're hurting is the child. And
I also agree with the point that most men who actually have substance and standards don't listen to nonsense like this woman. Like I tell you this one story real quick. There was a woman who I was with my family, and my wife brought me a plate of dinner. Right, I had the kids. I was watching over the kids, and my wife brought me a plate to eat. And this lady had the audacity to say from across the room, "He can't get his own plate." Yo, when I tell you, I looked this woman straight in her eye, smiled, and went, "No." Started laughing and went right back to watching my kids and eating. And I said thank you to my wife. Why? My wife saw that I was watching over the children, which took a load off of her while she was cooking and preparing the meal for everyone else. Mind you, this woman's not doing anything. Her husband wasn't doing anything. Also, keep in mind, her husband isn't the highest standard productivity type of guy. They don't have children. They live a completely different life from my wife and I. Yet this bitter old lady wants to complain about what my wife is doing for her husband because it made both of us happy. What's crazy is she don't see the times where I cook for my wife, prepare food for my wife. When my wife is tired, I say, go sit down, go rest. I got the kids. They mad annoying. They my kids. So I understand. And it's like, she don't see that. But what she see is what she herself can't get or what she herself isn't willing to do. And it turns them bitter. That's another reason why y'all can't listen to some of them, because you don't know their motive.
can't help but wonder, won't you be
The
traumatized
person that she hurt was the child. He didn't do anything. She hurt the child with her decisions.
as a person, walking away from someone that you've bonded with, that you've loved? For the man,
Hell yeah, it's traumatizing, and you got to view it as death, because that's the death of the relationship, right? You have a breakup with someone, it's traumatizing. If someone, loses their life senselessly, it's traumatizing. You being deceived that a child is yours, and then you turn around and find out that it's not, that's deceit, right? It's the death of the relationship that you once had. And you got to understand, everybody grieves differently. This I know, but men, the way that most of us grieve, we're cutting it off. We will cut it out emotionally. We have the ability to turn our emotions off, which is why some people believe that men are better suited for leadership. Personally, I think people who have the ability to turn off their emotions are better suited for leadership. I do believe that more men have the ability than women, but I just believe personally, if you're able to make decisions from a non-emotional standpoint, you're better for leadership than the people who can't. And this is why, again, men tell other men, don't do it. It's easier to just say, don't do it. It's easier to walk away rather than that man to have to look at that child every day and see the deception every single time. He sees that child, thinks of that child. You're going to go through that anyway, but at least not seeing them makes it a little bit easier. You get what I'm saying? It's going to hurt. You're going to think about them. It's going to pain you, but not being around the pain helps. Think about it this way. Imagine your girl cheated on you with a friend of yours and you don't leave her, but you still see them interacting. Don't you think that's going to hurt you a little bit more than you just walking the hell away from both of them? It's like, come on now, use your brain. Even when it hurts, you still got to use logic.
isn't that traumatic? I mean, I really do not understand. I just
No,
cannot.
you don't understand, because part of being a man is being willing to do hard things. Sometimes take kids out of the situation. There are even women sometimes as a man you need to learn to step away from. And it might be hard, but it might be something you have to do for the sake of yourself and for the sake of what you're trying to build in the future. Sure, it could be hard because you build an emotional attachment, but men have to do and have to be willing to do hard things all the time.
Late.
And that's literally what I just said. That's literally what leadership is. You see, the problem with modern society is everybody has high paying jobs and they think that they're a damn leader. I'm telling you, I went to church for a long time. Most of these pastors are not leaders. They're not. They're just money hungry men and women who tend to manipulate the church. The same goes for your job. A lot of people in high position are not real leaders, which is why everyone around them is miserable. Some of these women want power without the responsibility. And with that responsibility, you have to make tough choices. And one of the hardest choices you're ever going to make is to leave people behind. And when people start deceiving you, you better start learning to leave them behind.
And once again, I'm not a man. I'm sensitive to the hurt, to the pain, to the betrayal.
No, you're not.
Is it wrong to walk away from a
No,
child?
you're not. Like,
Yeah, no, you're not. No, you're not. Stop.
you're not sensitive.
Because it
You're
definitely
just not.
shows that you're not the biological father. Food for thought.
She acknowledges it, but she's not sensitive to it. And this is why when they talk about their emotional IQ, I laugh, because acknowledging something doesn't mean that you're aware of it. It doesn't. It doesn't mean that you're knowledgeable in it. It doesn't.
Talk to you later.
And it's crazy because I had a situation like this, and I tell this story every now and then on this channel because it's super important. Like, one of my buddies was 15 years old. We grew up in Minnesota. This man found out he was having a kid with a woman that moved into his family, into his house with him and his mom at 15 years old. And of course, he stepped up. He did everything he had to do to prepare for the kid. And all of that time when the kid was about to come, he would go to school in the morning. Right after school at about 3 p.m., he would go to work from 3 p.m. till about 10 p.m. And then he would bike all the way back across town to go back home and do homework and take care of the baby and start and rinse and repeat that every single day. And sometimes when he was biking, you have to understand that we lived in Minnesota, so it could be -2 degrees. And if he had to get across town, that's just what he had to do. At 15 years old, he stepped up and took on that responsibility. And the baby, I think the baby was about 8 months. There were a bunch of rumors circulating. He didn't want to believe it. His mom worked at a hospital. She took the test for him on his behalf because he didn't even want to, and it turns out the baby wasn't his. The dude was absolutely devastated because obviously he was working hard to provide for a kid that ended up not being his, and he ended up having some medical issues that he still has today from that situation, chronic medical issues. He's turned the frown upside down. The brother's super healthy. He works out. He's super lean. He's super muscular. He has a wife that loves him. He's making about $100,000 now in a very prestigious situation or at a prestigious job for a prestigious company. And he's living good. And plus, he lives in a small town still, so he ain't got to worry about the expenses of living in the city. So the man...
Just to cut his story off, and I'm happy that his friend is doing better, right? But I think his story is a perfect example. Of course, if it's true, you never know these things, but he does tell this story a lot, and he tends to tell the story the same exact way without missing any details, which leads me to believe that the story is in fact true, right? But forget the fact that he's successful now. Just forget that for 1 second and picture this young man not finding out until that child is 19. You see the world that he lost, the abilities, the life that he lost because he stayed with that deceitful woman. Imagine that. He lost possibly making his own family. He lost that successful career because he had a chance to kind of lock in and focus on himself as opposed to raising a kid that's not his. He possibly would not have gotten or achieved any of these goals had he stayed with that woman after finding out what she did. This is why we say don't do it.
Saving and making great money. He gets to travel at will anytime he has free time or anytime he has time off. So he really turned the frown upside down. But the thing that I think about sometimes is all of this happened to him and there was no consequence for her. Nobody is holding these hoes accountable, so these hoes is just going around rampant. I just think that it's crazy that there's no consequence for negative female behavior. Whether it be false paternity, it could be false allegations, whatever it may be, there seems to be hardly ever any consequence for negative female behavior, and that's why these hoes is out here rampant. Maybe it's all in fate. A person who does that type of stuff to people probably ain't gonna live a happy life anyway. Meanwhile, he being on the good side, making good decisions, continue to make good decisions throughout his life, and it reflects. But yeah, he got out of that situation, and that was the smartest move he ever made. Sometimes the smartest move is the hardest move, I guess. Let me know in the comments below if this video was a W.
And the Bible says, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. You don't got to beat up anybody. You ain't got to harm anybody. Sometimes people get theirs in the end. And if they don't, live your life in a good way so you don't have to worry about that, right? Stress can kill you. So even just worrying about it can hurt you before it ever hurts them. And sometimes they never get that punishment, which is why I tell men and women alike, learn to live better, live smarter, learn from other people's mistakes, and stay away from these clowns because they will destroy your life with a smile on their face. But I'll close with this, right? You got to understand, some women are extremely selfish And I'm not just talking about the women who partake in this behavior, because obviously they do what benefits them. A lot of women are in survival mode 24/7. They don't know anything else except survival. So they try to pick the man with the most money. They try to pick the biggest man or the toughest man to protect them from their foolishness. And that's not going to change. So what can change is you. So here's what I think I'm going to start doing. I'm going to try to start giving some advice and steps for people to actually take to benefit their life, right? We know that some of these women are selfish. You need to learn how to identify and stay away from them, right? We know that they're willing to let certain men go to jail even though that man never touched them, or they're willing to let you raise and pay for this child even though they know it's not yours. That's evil, and we need to start addressing it as evil. But young man, anywhere, everywhere, you need to learn to identify these players and stay away from them. They tend to have a look. They tend to have the same attitude. They tend to have the same speech patterns. It shouldn't be this hard. It shouldn't, right? And I know this is where fathers come into play, but a lot of us, particularly in the Black community, are not raised with fathers. So maybe I'll start using this channel to hopefully advise some young men and young women on how to live in a more comfortable manner. It's not the most fun way, it's not the most sexy way, but it's effective, and you can live a good life like that young man in PMP's story, right? But when I'm closing, I'm just gonna say this to young men. I know it's not popular, I know it's not polarized enough, it's not said enough, but your happiness is important. Your joy is important. Your self-worth is important. Stop letting these women who know nothing about what you go through tell you what you should be doing and how you should go through it. Stop. They benefit, you don't. And if you're not careful, you're going to be living for the same women who deceived you. You need to be more like PMP's friend. Learn to cut your losses, learn to make changes for the better, and you will live a happy life. It will hurt in the moment, but you will prosper in the end. And look at that, just at the closing, my phone going off. So I'll holla at y'all later. All right.
Thanks for listening to the Center Ground Podcast. We'll be back soon with some more great content. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment on the video. We are in a new channel, and growth is essentially our main objective. So send us an email at centerground.pod@gmail.com with any ideas or clips you would like for us to review. This was definitely fun, and I'd say let's do it again. But before you go, always remember, greatness lives somewhere within you. Just make sure you're taking the time to find the key to unlock that greatness. Until we meet again, I'll see you soon.